One. Okay, so that website, the Department of Justice website that was that had the report on the missing or the ballots that were found discarded in Pennsylvania was up. I sent you guys the link, and then they took it down. The page not found, like within 10 minutes. So my question is, I don't want to be a black helicopter guy. I want to say, because of all the hits on Twitter, that it started getting overloaded. That website got overloaded, and they were like, we got to take this down. That's what I want to believe. What do you think?
I think that they were worried about making it a bigger deal than what it is, because I read through the article this morning when it came out. And then when you look at like the FBI, you know, Ray and all these guys putting out their notices, it's twofold. One, right now it's a nothing burger just with the sheer numbers, because from what I read this morning, it was 9 ballots. They didn't give the amount of ballots, but they said some of these could not be identified back to the person, which right there would invalidate the ballot, because you can't, you know, the signature, this and that, which you would throw it away, right? I mean, what else do? You fucking save it and archive it or some shit? No, you throw it away. So they didn't tell you how many of them. And with the totality being 9, I don't think it was as big of a deal as what a lot of people are blowing it up to be. So, and then the other piece to this is it's kind of like Trump's statement with the coronavirus, you know, when he gave his interview to Woodward. It's like, do you really want the FBI, you know, to come out right now and say, yeah, we've already got, you know, cases of whatever, you know, whether you want to call it voter fraud or whatever. So I think there's probably a little bit of both of that going on.
Yeah, I would just hope it would happen for the other side. You see the corona numbers today?
No, I don't even look at that shit anymore.
No, but what the CDC came out with?
I stopped looking at corona numbers probably 3 months ago.
You should look at it, man. Where the CDC came out and actually started compiling the what do you call it? Mortality rate, basically, for age groups.
Awesome.
My God, dude, it's so low. It's so low.
Dude, I got in an argument. I think it might have been on your page or somebody else's Twitter or whatever about the numbers. And it's like, you know, they keep throwing this number out, 200,000 today. That's what I did see on the news or whatever the fuck, you know, whatever it is. But they throw out the number because of the shock value that it brings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you stir that ice up a little bit louder? That's great. So they throw out the 200,000 because of the shock value that it brings to the reader, and to show you to convince you how dangerous this virus is. And so I keep, you know, and I've harped on this for months now. I keep harping on the mortality rate and the fatality rate, which is roughly 0.005% or 0.05 and 3% respectively. And then the guy accused me, like, well, you're downplaying. Well, no, I'm not downplaying anything. That's a commonly used stat. That's what's important, is the mortality and fatality rate. You're using the 200,000 as shock value to show me how communicable this disease is, or this virus is, and how deadly it is. Well, if you're going to show me how communicable and how deadly it is, then you do it based off ratios, not whole numbers. Because guess what? That 200,000 next year, regardless of what the fuck happens, is going to be 300,000. Hey, I mean, guess what? As every month goes on, guess what happens to that number? It goes up, just like with cancer, just like with auto accidents, just like with the flu. It's going to continue to go up. So they just keep throwing this 200,000. Hey, I got a number for you. So you know what's an important number? An important number in my mind is 300, and I think it's 7,000. And that's the amount of people that the VA OIG listed in their report that died before their VA packet was approved to go get health care. That's an important number to me, 307,000 or whatever. I think it's 307,000 during the Obama-Biden administration. I didn't read the whole thing, so don't cut my nuts off. But during that, when they were going through the backlog and this and that, they found 307,000 roughly VA veterans had already died before their stuff was processed. That's how long the backlog. Now everybody's coming out trying to say, well, you know, some of these may have already been, well, because, you know, we don't, well, maybe they didn't not all 307,000. Like, okay, look, dude, the guy or gal was obviously alive when they filed their VA packet. They're clearly not alive right now. That number's 307,000. So, you know, I guess you can interpret that how you want to. I interpreted it as it's 100,000 more than coronavirus deaths that we have right now. And we haven't even got into I'm nice about it. I put up front, I'll give you 200,000 coronavirus deaths, even though we know it's not 200,000. I'll give you the 200. I won't even argue that with you, because that right there just blows your case up, because it's probably not maybe 40% of that, maybe less than that, maybe 20%, and then remove the old folks. Anyway, it pisses me off.
I'm telling you.
You already got me started on a fucking coronavirus that I keep saying I'm never going to talk about it again. And it comes back up. And it's funny out here because the Scottsdale mayor or city council, I can't remember which one it was, they came out and got rid of the mask mandate. They said, nope, no mask mandate. Maricopa County kept the mask mandate, still forcing people to wear it. So, of course, now you got this pissing contest. And out here in our town, it's kind of funny. So when you walk into the Target, they have the sign that says you have to wear a mask. But then once you walk in on the loudspeaker, it's, if you prefer not to, they say, we recommend you wear a mask. If you prefer not to wear a mask, we ask that you use the contactless checkout. So now, I mean, basically nobody's wearing masks. You've got a handful, right, that do it, and more power to them. But
shouldn't all the people who haven't been wearing masks, shouldn't they be dead by now?
Shut your mouth.
No, they're the ones spreading the disease.
Well, no,
don't you know that?
Here's what I don't
That's
understand.
not how it works.
To Josh's point. So we've had, and I haven't checked it in a couple of weeks. The last time I did the numbers, we had like 5 million infected. I don't know what hey Siri, how many people in the United States are infected with coronavirus?
Currently, there are 6,934,204 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the United States.
That's confirmed cases since the very beginning.
So yes, so let's round up. Let's say 7 million people since February, end of January, February. Shouldn't we be at like 120 million infected? To Josh's point, I mean, shouldn't we, or probably greater than that, right? I mean, it's been 8 months. I mean, we should be at like 200 million infected right now, and 100 million should be dead.
We should be at we should be around in the 70 something % ballpark of the entire the country being affected, and we should have well I won't even say 100 million. We should have well over 5 million dead.
So statistically speaking, out of the three of us, 2 of you should have the coronavirus and 1 of you should be dead. And yet we're all 3 still here.
Yep.
I finally met someone who has a direct relative and or personal acquaintance who has COVID. And this one person had COVID, and this knew 3 people. And this guy's not lying. He's like, yeah, it's this person, this person, this person. All 3 of them are still alive. One person had complications. I didn't want to get into personal details like what does she smoke, what's still. But yeah, 3 people, 1 had complications, and the complications have lasted 3 months, but she's coming out of it. It's like, okay, you are one of many, but whatever.
So I've known a few people that have had it. One of the guys at work, his dad died earlier this year, from it, but he had a lot of, he was older. He had a lot of complications, pre-existing conditions, and, COVID exasperated him, and that was that. But I know a guy our age, he got it, his wife got it, and 3 of his kids got it, right? So his whole house got it. And, he was basically like, yeah, man, he was like, it felt off for a couple of days. He was like, but other than that, he was like, dude, 2 weeks, we were back, back to living, but him and his wife are, like I said, they're RAs, they're in good shape. The kids are, they're young kids, man. They're less than 10 years old, but the kids, they were down for a day or 2, not feeling well. But after that, dude, they were out playing in the dirt, again. So this entire thing has been absolutely ridiculous. The whole COVID thing. I wear a mask in stores that I have to go into that require you to wear a mask.
Me too.
I have to go to the grocery store, right? And the grocery stores here, all of them are, they're big on the mask. They're like, you have to have a mask on. So, okay, that's fine. I'll wear a mask in your store. Not a problem. But if I go in a store and they say, hey, if you want to wear one, you wear one. If not, then that's cool too. I put my mask in my pocket and I do not wear it.
So the fatality rate based off series numbers actually fell to 2.8%. just to let you know that.
Yeah,
the fatality rate actually went down a little bit.
And
overall. Yep.
The
all
biggest
age groups.
Yep.
The biggest part of this, and the part that, I think a lot of people have not paid attention to, or some, but have not paid attention to, you look at that, it's a 2% fatality rate. It's absolutely insane. We're like, oh my God, I hope I don't catch this, this thing that I have a 98% chance of beating and living through. Come on, you
at any age group.
So,
Right.
actually,
Right.
let me put this in better perspective. At 2.8%, that's exactly half of the percentage body weight that both of you guys lost in your diet. So for you YouTube viewers out there that don't think they look any skinnier than what they are, take that fatness and cut it in half, and that's your fatality rate for coronavirus.
So I say that, right? The part that people aren't paying attention to, and this is the truly scary part. You look at it, we have people literally fighting in a grocery store over toilet paper, over this thing that has a 98% recovery rate. It has literally a 98% recovery rate.
Tofu.
Like people are literally fighting over basic necessities. Could you imagine what would happen if a real pandemic hit the United States? Bro, it would be absolute anarchy. Absolute anarchy.
Oh yeah.
That's what people need to pay attention to. And people also need to pay attention to how easy was it for local officials to lock you down?
Fuck yes.
Dude, that's absolutely insane.
Test run, man. I should have kept writing that.
You should have kept
test run, man.
You would have sold 1 million copies.
And that's scary as shit because one, not only do you have to go to the courts to fight it, which a lot of people don't, which there are some doing it now, which is a good thing, but even the court system is slow because of coronavirus, right? So the court even getting in to get a ruling, by the time that happens, it's already been 6 months.
Yeah,
I thought we were just flattening the curve. That's my with the mask. I thought we were just flattening the curve, man.
15 days to flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm the medical facilities. That was what we were told.
Now we're talking about saving lives. But if Trump hadn't have been president, all 200,000 people would be alive today. Every single one of them.
According to Joe Biden. Yeah, Luke, man, you should have kept writing that, man. You could have sold 1 million copies.
Yeah, that. Yeah,
we wouldn't be doing this shitty podcast if you sold 1 million copies.
No, Luke would have just started his own podcast.
No, we would, but we would have monetized it by now.
Oh, there's the other word. Oh, shit.
That questionable Canadian that was sparring back and forth.
I thought Josh's word. I thought Josh's word last week was the bad one. That's man. Holy shit.
No, I just want to let Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones know that I am on my best behavior this week.
Dude, they don't watch the YouTube version.
That's true.
But they do.
I'll intro this one.
Holy shit.
Let's do it.
Volunteering?
Do you know what episode we're on?
Then
34.
The next.
34. The next. Oh, Lord. Dude, it is. Fuck, man, I hate my job. I hate my job. Like, today was the first day, like, the entire drive home today, like, I was just thinking about how much I hate my job.
Some of that stuff you were sending us, I was like, God.
Dude, they are literally putting together this working group, this team to modernize that organization. And you're like, what? Why don't you go tell that organization to fix their shit? Hey, I don't know if you read the NMS from 2018, but here's where we're going now. You need to get your shit together and get there and get on board with everybody else and come on in for the big win. You're like, well, that's really not an option. We really need to, establish this other organization to take a look at this organization to see how they can do things better. And you're like, but yet we're taking a 20% pay cut.
So that was Full Metal Jacket, right? When the colonel is like, "Come on, why don't you get on the team? Come on in for the big win."
Yeah.
What do you say, George?
Yeah.
That's what I thought of when you said that.
Absolutely insane, dude.
All right,
Absolutely.
let's get this shit on.
Let's do it. All right. Mute y'all shit. I get tired of y'all messing with my vibe. All right, give me the countdown, Roger. Give me the countdown.
Wait, Luke's intro in this one, right?
The next episode.
Give me the countdown. Okay. Give it to me again.
Just go. Just go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Culper's Canteen Cup, which is episode 34 for Josh there. We got a great episode for you, but first I want to give a shout out to Betsy. We're going to keep it clean on this episode. I'll go ahead and give a shout out to my mom and dad, give a shout out to Josh's mom and dad. We're going to try our hardest to keep it clean. Not because, we found our morals and everything, but because, hey, we're more talented than that, right? We can express ourselves without using those foul words. I'm going to shout out to Carlton Zeus for that great intro music. Thanks a lot, buddy. Head to carltonzeus.com or check him out on iTunes. Really should look up his album if you haven't already. It's good stuff. Tom and Jen Satterley, allsecurefoundation.org. Check them out. Always a great organization to support. So we got a great episode lined out. We're going to talk about the notorious RBG. We're going to talk about Breonna Taylor. Good morning. Sunday morning. And we're going to talk about maybe a little bit of Hunter Biden. It's going to be, this is going to be a barn burner, I'm telling you. And you need to watch on YouTube. And for those of you 26 to 30 people who are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button so you can get our updates that come out. And I'm telling you, you're going to want to watch on YouTube because within the next couple of weeks, Josh and I have been working out. I'm telling you, we've been working out. We're going to take Roger's lead. I am going to the PX tomorrow. Cross the border. I'm going to get myself some wife beaters. I'm going to start wearing those during the podcast. You guys are going to want to see that. So, folks, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a like. Head over to iTunes. Give us a like. We're opening up with that because we know a lot of y'all stopped listening since we're wrapping it up. So, give us a like. Give us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform, and head over to YouTube and subscribe. So, Roger, which one are we going to cover first, man?
Well, I got a couple of things. One, so somebody out there is using Podcast Addict or Castbox or whatever. If you're a listener and you're using that platform, hit us up on Facebook. I'm just curious who in the hell uses it. They have so many indie platforms. Like, who the fuck uses this? Well, I guess that took me all of 3 minutes to drop the F-bomb. So I was like, who the heck is using this? And so and literally our stats show, like, there's one user that uses, I think it's Castbox or whatever, and one that uses Podcast Addict. So I'm just curious. I'm not gonna bag on anybody. I think it's pretty cool. And that, to me, those indies, those are huge. I like those better than anything. But I'm just kind of curious if if anybody's seen that. Have you guys seen? And I can't remember who sent it to me. Did you guys see the YouTube video where Nadler shits himself, where he sharts?
Dude,
is that not the funniest?
Is that what happened though? I mean,
well, why else do you walk like that? I mean, did you see the look on Nancy? So for the listeners out there, if you haven't watched this video, you got to go gurgle Nadler shits himself, Nadler sharts himself, or whatever. But when that happens and you see the look on Nancy's face, it is very clear that's exactly what he did. There was probably a Mike got quiet. She looks over and he's doing the Dookie shuffle off the side of the stage. But you good Lord, man, that is one of the funniest things that you'll see all month. Guaranteed.
Hey, you know what? I can laugh at it because I've been there, and I know Josh has too. I've been there, but not in front of a national press corps.
Yeah, never on national TV. So I don't know. What do you think, Josh? We covered the most important news would be Nadler shitting himself. We've got Hunter Biden, we've got RBG, we've got Breonna. Let's start with Breonna Taylor. That's like the hot one, right? That's what's going on right now. So let's give a rundown here. Everybody kind of knows what happened with Breonna Taylor, but what's your thoughts on what's going on with the riots and what the grand jury came back with?
Oh, okay. So first, I got to touch on the penguin. All right, pooping himself. I actually felt bad for the dude, right? Because he's standing there, he's holding on to the podium, right? So Pelosi comes up and starts talking, and he like waddles off, and you can tell like he's got the butt cheeks are clenched, man. Like he's walking off, and then for a second, like I actually felt sorry for the guy, right? Because you look at him, you're like, I almost wanted the. It was like I was literally yelling at the cameraman on the video, like pan away from him, like come on, pan away, like he's a human being, like give that man at least a modicum, a dignity, like just pan away, like good Lord, let that dude. That was one of the saddest things I've seen in a very long time. Like that, I mean, it was heartbreaking to watch that man, knowing that it's a national audience, right? Actually, it's a world audience. I've seen this. The man has zero dignity left, no honor, like done, man. That was heartbreaking. As another man, you be looking at that, I was just, it was unsettling. It was unsettling.
No,
Jerry,
you know what? I would feel like you do, except that there are probably 4 or 5 human beings on the face of this planet that I just despise, and I could care less. He's one of them. Schiff's another one. Blumenthal's another one. There's maybe more than 4 or 5, but those guys there, I could care less. That is the funniest thing you see all month.
So I'm not. No, absolutely. Jerry Naylor's. He's one. He is as bad as they come.
Adam Schiff.
But as another human being, as another man, like that's just like it's terrible. Because Luke's right, man. We have been there. I was in the middle of a meet, in Afghanistan, I think it was, and bro, like I literally, like 20 minutes into it, because I went to go fart and it went everywhere. Like it wasn't like, oh, like, ooh, man, that's kind of a bad one. No, it was like immediate, like this is catastrophic. Like this is catastrophic. Like there is no, like, I can't continue this meeting. Like I smelled worse. I smell worse than the Afghani.
Oh, we're gonna break record.
I literally got up. I could feel it running down the backs of my legs. Like it was it was not good.
Did I ever tell you the time when I did it as a recruiter? So I'm in the recruiting station in my Class Bs. And for those of you out there that aren't military or whatever, your Class Bs, kind of like your dress pants, and you've got the button-up shirt, collared shirt with a short sleeve. You got all business your casual. You got all your business casual. You got your all your ribbons and everything, because as a recruiter you got to wear that shit all the time, and your shirt stays and all that stuff. And I was sitting there, and thank God an applicant wasn't there. So I'm sitting at the desk, and I was up at the Foothills recruiting station. And a couple of listeners out there will remember this specifically, because dude, I blew the fucking back out of my pants sitting there. I mean, it was like, I was like, holy shit. so I go to the bathroom. Yep. Take them off, dude. Thank God we had one of those hand dryers in there. So I spent like the next 20, 25 minutes sitting there washing my pants in the sink. Couldn't get the stench out of them. Finally, I had to call my wife. I'm like, hey, I need you to bring me another pair of pants. She's like, well, I'm like, just stop asking questions. Bring me a fucking pair of pants. All right. Well, that's, we've all been there. And I do realize that as you get older, I don't know if you guys are this way or not, but dude, the time on target significantly like decreases. When I was younger, it's like, okay, I might have to go. Okay, I hit the next rest area. Like right now, you've got 90 seconds, maybe.
Dude, yeah,
maybe.
yes. That happened to me here. I don't know. It was a couple weeks ago, man. It was. You have about 15 seconds, and 10 of those are gone. Right? It wasn't like, all right, let me go knock out a couple things first, and then I'll hit the bathroom. No, it was just like Mr. Bowell voice. It was like 5,
dude,
4. It was like, I gotta go.
That happened this morning to me, this very morning, and we talked. Those of you who get the freemium content on YouTube, that's why I want to steer to YouTube. On a couple of episodes ago, we talked about this for a solid 10 minutes after the podcast. We were talking about the radar. Your bowels have this radar, and it's like you've got, it gives you the warning, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Luke. You better be sitting on a toilet in 90 seconds. It's like, I got you. We're on the same page. So you start walking down the hallway and you're asking your bowels, you're like, wait a minute, you told me I had 90 seconds. I'm 10 seconds in. They're like, no. We can sense the toilet coming up. So now you've got 30 seconds, you know, and the closer you get to the toilet, the more it's like, nope, you got 4, 3, 2, and then you do the move, you know, you undo the pants, you go down, you sit down, and it's all boom, it's a move. So this morning, I had the thing, man. I know audience out there, we're getting real personal right now, but I go downstairs because I'm not gonna do my business on my floor. You know, I'm going downstairs to do it on another floor, and I walk by, and so the radar's going off. It's like you've got 10 seconds, and I walk by to that door, and it's locked. Somebody's in there, and my bowels are like, nope, we're not having it. We're not having it. You're either going to go in your pants or you're going to run down to the next floor down, and you're going to go. And that's how it was, man. That was this morning. Yeah, we're old. We like talking about our bowel movements.
So basically, every floor in your office building has shitters from another floor that's coming down to use.
Yes. It's easier to go downstairs than up, and I'm on the top floor.
Yep.
So what are we talking about?
Dude, absolutely. So anyway, all right. So let's. Roger was asking me about the Breonna Taylor situation. God, where do you start, right? One, what we are seeing. This is not new. This situation is nothing new. We've seen this movie time and time again. This is not a pick your own adventure book where you get to choose the ending. It's the same movie. It's the same ending time and time again. And we've seen it. An incident occurs. People riot because of the media goes out with their initial report, which all three of us and the vast majority of our listeners know that initial reports are almost 100% always wrong. Almost always. Initial reports are always wrong. Right? You got the fog of war, you got the dust is still up, there's smoke, there's haze, like nobody knows exactly what's going on. Everybody hasn't had time to collect their senses yet. They're always wrong. So the media got out and pushed this narrative that, you know, Breonna Taylor, this EMT, this pillar of society in Louisville, Kentucky, was shot while sleeping as a part of this no-knock raid that, you know, this militarized police force, you know, basically haloed in, you know, on top of the house, came through the windows, came down the chimney, you know, came up through the floorboards, and not only shot her, you know, her live-in boyfriend, but, you know, ran into a room, saw her peacefully sleeping in a bed, and just proceeded to, you know, St. Valentine's Day massacre her. Well, instead of waiting for the investigation, they decided we're going to treat this like Trayvon Martin. We're going to treat this like Mike Brown. You know, we're just going to go ahead and start burning Louisville to the ground. Well, woe and behold, what do you know? The evidence has come out. The investigation is complete. The grand jury looked at it. And I don't know how, you know, probably a lot of people don't understand how a grand jury works. In fact, I saw somebody post today, a grand jury, it was all police officers on the grand jury. That's why, you know, the charge came out. Like, that's not how it works. That's not how any of that works. You know, come to find out that it was not a no-knock warrant. They did knock on the door and identify themselves. And Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, you know, he's like that GIF with Danny DeVito from, you know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is like, so anyway, I started blasting, right? And so he starts blasting, hits a cop, right? So the cops say, you know, the cops think, okay, we just knocked on a door to serve a warrant. And now we're, you know, all of a sudden there's gunfire. We're going to guns, right? And Breonna Taylor, who's, you know, I don't know where she was. She was hiding behind him. She was in front of him. She was standing off, you know, a foot to the side. I don't know. But I know she wasn't in her bed sleeping like the media, you know, took and ran with and what initial reports said. She wasn't there and she caught a round. Okay. Is that a tragedy? Yeah, sure. It's a tragedy, right? Should she be dead? Probably not. But anybody who has ever in their life been in a gunfight knows that shit happens. I look at it and say, had your boyfriend who you chose to have there, who you chose to have in your life, not decided to go to guns with the police, maybe you wouldn't have caught around. Maybe you would still be alive. Maybe he would still be alive. I don't know. But what I do know is that people are now, even after the evidence has come out and pointed to, hey, the cops were in the right. Here's what happened. Here's what the evidence supports, right? And so that's forensic evidence too. So for all you hashtag believe science people out there, hashtag believe science, because forensics is science. It supports it. It shows that the cops were in the wrong. And not only that, you had the Attorney General of Kentucky, who last time I checked, he's a black guy, right? They came out and said, who was it on MSNBC or somebody said, you are not skin kin or family kin or something like that.
Right.
Basically called him an Uncle Tom, right? Which is, in my book, pretty racist. Probably not something you should go around calling people. And the hell or high water, they don't care. They don't care about the evidence. Now they're just going to burn Louisville to the ground, which, you had 2 police officers shot last night in Louisville. Both of them are expected to recover, which is good. One of the police officers took a round just below the hip. Lucky it did not hit an artery, right? Because that's normally how those turn out. And the other one, and by the way, one of the police officers that was shot is black. So for the black person shooting the black police officer, I guess his life didn't matter. I don't know. I don't know where to go with the whole BLM thing other than the fact that Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. I said what I said. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. I'll say it again. I said what I said. Right? So it's a shit show. Louisville's going to burn again tonight. I don't know at what point somebody's going to put their foot down and somebody's going to restore law and order in this country. I really wish that the governors and the mayors would take responsibility for their cities and protect those citizens who are doing the right thing, not out rioting, not out destroying public and private property, not out shooting people. But if you are in Louisville, here's what I'm going to ask you. If you do decide to go out and loot and riot, if by chance you hit a place that has allocated bourbons, just keep Culper's Canteen cup in your mind when you grab those bottles and bring them back to your house. So I'll get off my soapbox, and I'm curious to hear what Luke thinks about this. But again, Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. You can't change my mind.
So before Roger gets into the facts and figures, what we count on him for is to keep us real with the real story. I'll be upfront and honest and say that, I really wasn't following the Breonna Taylor situation that closely because now, Roger, before I get started here, now that happened after George Floyd, correct? Sorry to put you on the spot.
You know what? I think they were similar time. Hang on, I'll go.
So it might have been before. It might have been before. It doesn't really matter. I guess I just wasn't tracking it that close. Kind of got caught up in the George Floyd thing, and then the countless other circumstances that came after. But what I did, when the story first came out, I was like, no knock warrants. And if you listen to this show enough, I mean, we're 34 episodes in now. I think you'll realize that although I think the three of us do back the blue, so to speak, of course we love our police officers and all that stuff, but at the same time, we walk this fine line of, but we don't want we don't want them too much in our business. We don't want them militarized. We do think they should back off a little bit. I think in a few episodes ago, we were talking about some of the reforms that were proposed in the wake of the George Floyd thing and the other one. I'm fading on the name, but we're not. Yeah, we trust our police to a point. But at the end of the day, I think the three of us agree the police work for us. Now, so it just didn't seem right. I don't know. But again, I didn't follow it that close. But a no-knock warrant, I know there's a time and a place for everything, but when someone gets killed with a no-knock warrant and, the story is spun the way it was, I'm a prime example. I wasn't paying much attention. So when I'm not paying much attention and not digging into the actual story, I tend to unconsciously, like everyone else out there, just follow the media narrative, even though I shouldn't. I, of all people, should know you shouldn't do that. So from the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is a situation gone bad. And then Roger starts sending us links and stuff like that. You really got to dig into this stuff about how this thing, and you did this like months ago, Roger, sending us links about and how, maybe it's not what it seems. Maybe her boyfriend was a known, drug dealer or peddler or whatever he was. It just started not adding up. And of course, right then my mind snapped and I was like, okay, I didn't pay good enough attention. Like Josh said, man, the initial story that comes out is just hardly ever accurate. And if it is even the least bit accurate, there's more of a story to it. So in all honesty, I didn't follow the Breonna Taylor case that closely to begin with. But the result of it now that I know everything, now that I've seen what the actual testimonies were and some of the documents have leaked from the GJ, the grand jury, I'm starting to see, well, this is kind of par for the course, and it's just complete cognitive dissonance. I mean, you can look at the documents, they're publicly available, all of this stuff, yet people are still rioting. And Louisville's a nice city, man. I mean, I've been there multiple times. Josh's mentor, who occasionally listens to this show, actually took a wrong turn in Louisville, and we wound up in Indiana when we were there on a mission one time. So that was fun. But anyway, it's heartbreaking to me. I know a lot of people in Louisville. Chris, shout out, Happy Balls. And it's just a shame that this stuff is going to happen over what? I mean, like Josh said, stuff happens, and she should not be dead. I don't know that it was the two cops that got shot. Josh, I don't know if the guy who shot the two cops was black, because most of these BLM protesters I see and most of the people doing this stuff are white people. So it's like, I don't know.
The person they arrested, the alleged shooter, right? Because again,
okay. I didn't know that.
Again, we have lost the presumption of innocent until proven guilty in a court of law in this country, right? For everybody. But the alleged shooter that they have in custody right now of the two police officers is black.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it just, everything's so confusing right now. It's a little bit disheartening when property is getting burned, police officers are getting shot over a narrative that is just completely false. But Josh and I have just been talking crap. Roger is going to be the one that brings us around to actual facts. So
facts that I support with my own research or makeup, however you want to look at it. It's fine. Josh hit it on the head with this thing, because when it first came out, I think we addressed it, and like we address every incident that comes out like this, this is what it sounds like. If this is what happened, it sounds bad, but I reserve the right to wait for everything to come out. And I think when the Breonna Taylor thing came out, it was so night and day. Because I remember we were doing the podcast, and it was, cops served a no-knock warrant, kicked the door in, and basically shot her up for no reason. And she's dead. And that was the narrative that was pushed by the media. And here's what I don't understand. I'll kind of get into the facts in a second as I go down this. But what I don't understand, and I understand not wanting to taint the grand jury and any follow-on trial and this and that, but you can release facts. The AG, and Daniel Cameron, I tell you what, if you did not watch his press conference, best press conference of the year by far. That dude is very well spoken, very genuine. I thought, we had that moment there.
Careful, Joe Biden. Careful.
But it's when you look at what was first reported versus what came out in facts, why weren't the facts released prior? Not that it would have mattered, because rioters are looking for anything to riot about. For them, they could care less on what. So take the rioters, throw that shit out the window. They're going to riot for anything. But why not release the facts out there? Because what went from a lady being shot in her apartment who was an EMT or a paramedic or whatever, being served a no-knock warrant at 2:00 in the morning or whatever time it was. And it was 2 months before George Floyd. Hers was March and George Floyd was May. But it goes from that to, hey, a no-knock warrant was issued, but not utilized. The cop knocked on the door, announced their name, which I think was even confirmed through neighbors that, yes, we heard the police officer. So now it makes sense, because I'm sitting here thinking, and again, not knowing the layout of the apartment and this and that, but it's an apartment. So you mean to tell me, does this guy sleep with his gun? Because there's no way being served a no-knock warrant that the cops kicked. And you know how we do things during no-knocks. We all know no-knock warrants. It's 3 seconds. You're in there 3 seconds. You're on the ground. So what did this guy, the boyfriend, sleep with his gun? Well, of course not. Now it makes sense. The reason he had his gun and he was able to fire rounds was because the police were like, police. That's exactly what happened. That's how he got his gun out, and that's how he got the rounds off. It makes sense now. So a no-knock warrant was issued, not used. Cops announced their presence, confirmed. And what was initially reported, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think I heard this right, but what was initially reported as it was the wrong address, they actually did have a warrant for that address.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a warrant for that address. I'm not sure if it was the boyfriend or Breonna Taylor, because I know that the guy that they were originally looking at, or who was tied into this whole thing, was Breonna's ex-boyfriend. And I love how the left media downplays it. They broke up years ago. No, they were just she's still handling his money.
Yep.
Right? I know you had something, Josh. What are you correcting me on?
Oh, guess who else's name is on the warrant?
Boyfriend?
No, the warrant's for him. Guess who the second name was on the warrant?
Probably hers.
Breonna Taylor?
Breonna Taylor.
Oh my God. See, this just shows how much I'm not following this story. Unbelievable.
So here when I first heard it, right? When I first heard it, and we talked about it, right? I was like, yeah, man, that's just a situation that went bad, because I tell you right now, for me personally, I sleep, right? My pistol is within reach of me when I'm in bed, as long as I can get to my nightstand anyway, right? Right. So my pistol, if my door all of a sudden gets kicked in and I have a group of people coming through my door and they have not identified themselves in the middle of the night, absolutely, we're going to guns. Absolutely. That is what is going to happen, because I am coming up with a gun, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so when I first heard it, it was like, man, that's all bad, dude. No-knock warrant, middle of the night. You don't announce yourself as the police. And even if you announce yourself as the police, it's like, are you really the police in this day and age?
Right.
There's questions there. I saw both sides. I was like, yeah, dude, this is just a really, this was just poor execution, right? All around, right? Just a misunderstanding gone bad. I completely got it. I saw it. But again, it's like, okay, let's wait for the investigation. Let's wait for the investigation to come out. And yeah, none of what was pushed by the media is true.
No, and that's why the cop wasn't even charged with murder. Grand jury came back and said, no, that's a good shoot. You announced yourself. Boyfriend starts blasting. You shoot back. Where the cop got in trouble was firing 20 rounds, and the fact that it was in an apartment complex, it was essentially public endangerment. You take your gun out and you fire it off in a town square or whatever, which I think is like a Class D felony in Kentucky. That's what the grand jury came back with, is that, hey, actually it was an apartment complex. You fired 20 rounds and the walls are thin. And you could have hit people in other rooms. Which I'll tell you, here's the amazing thing about it. And I forget who said this, somebody way more popular than us and more knowledgeable, but it's always been said with grand juries that you can indict a ham sandwich at a grand jury. So the fact that they only came back with, and somebody can correct us on the public endangerment, because that's not the actual charge, but it's something similar to it. But the fact that the grand jury only came back with that charge, they'll be lucky to convict them of that. Because if I'm the vice versa now that we know I'm a police officer, I have a warrant for a no-knock or I have authority for no-knock warrant, which means that there was some high threat there. That's why you have a no-knock warrant. We're going to go in the middle of the night, and we're going to catch him or her unsuspectingly, and it's going to be a surprise element of surprise, and that way we reduce the risk, we reduce the violence, this and that. It's an apartment complex. So you have that. So you're already heightened anyway going into this place that, hey, there's the potential for some violence. And then the boyfriend I think it was 2 rounds, right? Did he fire off 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3. It wasn't a lot, but I mean, you only need 1.
Right. So rounds come out, and who knows what they have? I don't know what the police officers had, if they had nods or anything like that. But if it's dark, and then next thing you know, he empties his magazine. So I would tell you this, that when it goes to the actual trial, you may not even get that. And I think the prosecutors charged him right, or tried to bring the right charges, because I remember talking to my son about this. One of my concerns, as they always do, to quell the riots of today, they want to overcharge. We're charging murder, first-degree murder, whatever it is. And that's very hard. It sounds good in the papers, but you have to look and say, what can we convict this guy or gal on? And so I was concerned that they were going to overcharge. So you stop the riots today for the place to go completely nuts down the road when the guy or gal is found innocent. With this charge here, there's actually a pretty good chance that a plea happens. And from the pundits, I have no law background, obviously, but from the pundits that I've listened to, they're like, you know what, 4th-degree misdemeanor, you're looking at a maximum of 5 years in jail. He'll probably just end up pleading that down and get 6 months probation or whatever. And that's probably the right charge. Now, is it crappy that you've got that Breonna Taylor died? Yeah, I agree with you. Would she still be alive if the boyfriend hadn't opened fire? Probably. But now that the 87-page report that came out that shows, and I tell you, I get it. You cannot convict people based on their past. I understand that, and I'm not saying we do that. But let's not pretend that Breonna Taylor was an angel, because there were plenty of phone records to her former boyfriend, who was in prison, and I think still is. Yeah, he is still in prison, where they wiretapped that stuff.
It's also important to note that Breonna Taylor, because right when the news story came out, it was Breonna Taylor was an EMT, serving the community, protecting her fellow citizens, taking care of first responder, right?
Right.
Well, that was when we held our first responders in high regard before we, vilified them. Breonna Taylor got fired from her EMT job 2 years prior. You know why? For dealing cocaine.
Yep.
And helping her boyfriend deal cocaine out of the ambulance. Like, that's some Grand Theft Auto shit, right? Where he's dealing coke out of the ice cream truck. Like, that's some Friday. Dude, that's straight Friday. Like, Big Worm rolls up.
Well, and that's what leads to the warrant. That's why her name's there. That's why you have a search warrant, because they had phone records going back to just recently, where the way it sounded like she was handling the money for the ex-boyfriend during the drug deals.
She was the bag man.
So God, and these are facts. The phone calls are facts. The fact that the comp announced himself. So if you're and again, I take it all the way up to Daniel Cameron, which I think sounds like he's a great dude, but all the way down to your local level, why not release this stuff ahead of time? And again, the rioters are going to riot. I get that. And BLM is going to continue pushing their Marxist agenda, which, by the way, they've been cleaning up their website ever since Culper's Canteen Cup started reporting on this shit.
Damn right.
But you have a lot of folks out there, because I remember having the conversation with you guys, and I remember having the conversation with my son. And it's like, okay, so now you caused me to have a conversation with my son, who will lead him down the path of distrust of law enforcement. And since the facts weren't released early, all we had to go off of was, EMT or paramedic shot in the middle of the night and no knock warrant. It's like, wow. So I'm sitting here trying to defend that to my boy, and it's like, I don't really have answers. And to an 18-year-old, it doesn't. Just wait for all the facts to come out. And I think even one of your friends, Luke, came out and was like, this is bullshit. I don't even have to know. It's common sense. I'm like, hey, good thing we've got freaking due process. And I think you know what I'm talking about. Good thing that we have due process in the United States. Like Josh said, you're innocent until proven guilty. And all these people came out and said, I don't need any court. I don't need any of this. You'd be shot in your bed sitting at night. Yeah, that is wrong. If the police officers came in, kicked your door down, and shot you in your bed while you're sleeping, absolutely wrong. Guess what? That's not what happened.
Was that the same friend who said this is a certain group of people's come and take it moment?
I don't remember that. I don't know.
Okay, well, either way, what breaks my heart with this whole thing is we absolutely, this is, I wish we had sound effects here. Imagine a horn honking. We live in clown world. And that's frustrating for me reading the news. It's frustrating that we live in clown world and everything is so backward. But what the tragedy is that people are actually going to get hurt and die over this complete false narrative. And it leads me to ask, it's like, why is this happening? Is this all for ratings? Is this all for, advertising time, for commercials on all these news networks? All of them, not just one, all of them. Is that what this is? Because people are actually going to get hurt over this complete false narrative. Did we not learn our lesson? What year was it? 2011 with George, whatever his name was, down in Florida, and Trayvon Martin.
You know about George? Yeah, Trayvon Martin.
I mean, good Lord. I mean, can we not learn our lesson? And the answer is obviously no. And people are going to get hurt, and this is not going to stop. It's very frustrating for me. It's just it's one of those things you want to shake your head and just sigh and go live in the mountains and maybe fall asleep like Rip Van Winkle or something. I don't know.
And $14 million, right? Didn't they just settle civil suit?
$12 million.
$12 million. And if I'm a taxpayer of that city, I'm like, whoa. I want my $12 million back. There was a lot more to this than what you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. And so Louisville paid that money to just Louisville went with the appeasement method, right? And it hit. Ronald Reagan told us this years and years ago. History shows us, and history has proven that appeasement never ever works, ever.
And lies the road to war.
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely. Right. From his "we must fight" speech. It never works. And so Louisville tried to appease with the $12 million, but that didn't work because people are still out there rioting. People are still out there burning down, businesses. And we saw it. Like, you have people who had nothing to do with this, nothing to do with this, who have lost not only their lives, right? So you think about David Dorn, who was murdered in St. Louis during the George Floyd riots. Police Chief David Dorn wasn't in Minneapolis. Didn't know George Floyd from Adam's house cat. What did he do? Got murdered during a George Floyd riot because Black Lives Matter or something, and David Dorn was black for anyone out there who really gives a shit, right? But Black Lives Matter or something. And you have people whose their livelihoods, the way they feed their kids, the way they provide for their families have been destroyed. Things that they've spent their whole life building, businesses that they've spent their whole life building have been destroyed. And it, for what? Because the media pushed a false narrative. And everybody lost their minds when Trump said the media is the enemy of the people. Like, the media is a clown show and they're the enemy. People lost their minds. They're like, oh my God, he's undermining the media. Well, guess what? The man was not wrong. Our media is a complete disaster. A complete disaster. And Luke spoke to it. I think it was in the last podcast. Like, the way the media is the Tim Pools. It is the Andy, Negos. And I know I just said his name wrong. I'm sorry, Andy. Not that you listen to our shit anyway. And so, but that is, right? Our mainstream media, whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, whether it's MSNBC, they're all garbage. They're all hot, stinking garbage. And, and Roger spoke to it. I despise big government. I loathe and despise with every cell of my being dirty cops. I absolutely can't stand them. I think dirty cops should be rooted out, and they should spend the rest of their lives rotting in a jail cell, right? Because they should be held to a higher standard than your average American citizen. They absolutely should. But, and for us, and I'm comfortable speaking for both of y'all on this, we've been around the world enough to know that there's good people and there's bad people of every skin color, of every ethnicity, of every race, of every country, of every organization. There's good people in the military. There's shitty people in the military. Absolutely. Right. And the police forces of America, they're a microcosm of society. There are good cops and there are bad cops. And I would love to find all the bad cops, root them out, and put them in a jail cell with somebody who outweighs them by like 200 pounds and has like some, weird sexual fetish. And it's just, so but generally speaking, just wait for the facts to come out. Wait for the evidence to come out before we convict somebody in the court of public opinion, because that's what we've gone to, right? This cancel culture, convicting people in the court of public opinion. We've gone to that, and we've ruined innocent people's lives over it. People who can never get their life back, can never get their livelihood back, can never get their reputation back. The officer in the Mike Brown shooting, Darren Wilson, that guy can't find a job now as a police officer, even though he was in the right. The evidence showed he was in the right. Guess what? Everything that he's been trained to do, he can't do it anymore because there's no police force that's going to hire him. Why? Because we convicted that guy in the court of public opinion before we allowed due process to work. And if we truly believe in due process as a country, we have to give it a chance to work. If you're convicted by a jury of your peers to have committed a crime, then guess what, man? Go do the time. But what we can't do is convict people in the court of public opinion and ruin their lives because that's what the media tells us to do, or that's what the narrative tells us to do, or that's, hashtag social justice or whatever. So that's the last I'll say on the whole Breonna Taylor thing. And, it's a tragedy that, that she's dead. She didn't have to die. I don't think dealing drugs out of the back of an ambulance is deserves the death sentence. But I do believe her boyfriend, who made the choice, who made the personal decision to go to guns with the police, it's his fault. That's on him and him alone. The police officer who, emptied his magazine, you're a clown show. That was probably the first gunfight that dude's ever been in. I will go on a limb and say that's the first gunfight that dude's been in. He's probably, every time he's fired a weapon, it's probably been on a one-way range.
0 for 1.
And guess what? Think about it. These are the people that you want to defund. You want to take away money from them when you should be giving them more money and mandating. You need more training. You need training scenarios. You need to be trained better. You need training scenarios to where you are under an incredible amount of stress when you have to go to guns, right? You need to be punched in the mouth. Everybody talks about, I'll beat the enemy's ass. Hey, Mike Tyson said it best, baby. Everybody's got a plan so they get punched in the mouth. And anybody who's been to sudden violence, accident avoidance, it's all fun and games. So you get no scenario rooms and you get your ass beat like Tina Turner. Like,
yep. Oh, Tina Turner, man. Smack me again, I can put some stank on it. That's from Saturday Night Live. That is not my quote.
Oh, good Lord.
Josh, you're absolutely right, man. Defund the police. They don't know what they're talking about. It takes more funding. It really does. You want to train some people on some live fire scenarios, that takes ammunition. As you guys know, I'm not fortunate enough to have the luxury of buying ammunition over here, but what I hear in the States is getting very expensive. And for the police departments, it's the same way, man. I mean, ammunition is expensive. Training courses are expensive. It's just, we don't need a defund. We don't. What's her name? I think Diamond and Silk, refund the police, whatever. So We beat Breonna Taylor situation to death. Let's talk about the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You know what? I saw a lot of hate on Twitter about when she passed, and I'll tell you this, man. It goes back to the commander in chief, whether it's Obama, whether it's George W. Bush, whether it's William H. or Jefferson Clinton, or whether it's Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. Man, I have reverence for whoever holds that office. I really, really do. Make no mistake. These are high offices, and these are hard jobs. Look at before and after pictures. I mean, this is not an easy job. It doesn't matter who you are, what side of the aisle you're on. That is my commander in chief. I may have my own opinions about my commander in chief, but that is my commander in chief. And as far as Ruth Bader Ginsburg is concerned, like I said, I saw a lot of hate on that, and it rubbed me the wrong way. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, regardless of how anyone feels about her, she did serve her country. Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, that is a high office. I respect that. Whether I agree with her or not, I respect the fact that she made it there. She served for a very long time, and she holds my highest respect. The question I have before we get into the whole Supreme Court justice thing and voting on it before, man, that's a big issue. My question is, anybody, Sandra Day O'Connor? Nobody? No? Nobody's heard of her? First female Supreme Court justice? I mean, no props whatsoever for Sandra Day O'Connor? I mean, good grief. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I guarantee you, if you ask the public who's the first female justice, the majority of the public is going to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because somehow she became this cult symbol. I don't know how that happened. It happened around 2012. It's when she started getting like really popular, and people started making memes about her. And I'm like, this is Supreme Court justice. I don't get it. And the passing, people getting all upset about it. I just don't understand. I've looked into her past. Left-leaning judge, obviously. You could always count on her when it went up to a Supreme Court decision to side with the left, whatever issue it was. But I don't understand the popularity. I really don't get it, especially among millennials. And younger. I just don't get the notorious RBG. She's so gangsta. I don't understand that aspect of it. There's a lot to unpack here. We spent a lot of time on Breonna Taylor. So let's talk a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her passing. God rest her soul. I admire her, but let's talk about what this actually means.
So, I'll tell you right up front, the notorious RBG, because it rhymes with BIG, that's why she became a cult phenomenon. That's it. I'm telling you right now, because all of these RBG supporters out there, and I'm like you, anybody that holds that office, any federal judge, you get up to the Supreme Court, you know your stuff. You're going to be on one side of the aisle or the other, or whatever. It's the highest office in land you can hold for a judge, and I respect that position. But as far as the cult following, you can sit there and ask any of these kids or millennials or Gen Xers or whatever. So which RBG ruling did impressed you the most? Which RBG ruling had the most influence on you as a woman, as a gay, as a lesbian, as a bisexual? Which ruling would that have been? Well, she fought for women's rights, and I'm not saying she didn't, because she did. Clearly, when you look at VMI, opening that up, when you look at the LGBT TG rights, she's got some key rulings on that stuff as far as applying the 14th Amendment, which a lot of I agree with. But these people act like it's this cult phenomenon, and you can't even name a ruling that she was involved in. Supreme Court ruling with the George Bush Al Gore case, probably one of the most popular. And I think the one that shocked me the most was probably the VMI case. And applying the 14th Amendment to an all-male school. And again, she's got a couple other ones out there. But as far as her becoming, this pop culture cult phenomenon thing, it comes down because her name rhymed. Her initials rhymed, and that's why they did it. And people thought it sounded cool because she wasn't on TV a whole lot. The last couple of times she was on TV, she actually came out and and what she spoke out against the president or something like that. I forget what that whole ordeal was like, hey, you're a Supreme Court justice. You really shouldn't publicize your opinions on this stuff. More importantly, and I've kind of been going back and forth on your little Twitter universe here, because for the listeners here, so I'm primarily been like a Facebook kind of guy. And due to Luke and Josh here, I've kind of opened up my Twitter game. And sadly, I don't think I have as many Twitter followers as we have listeners for Culper's Canteen Cup. So I just tell you how bad I am and how bad my account is. But I've been going back and forth with a couple folks. And I'm just, and it's, of course, it's over the whole appointment. And to me, this is very cut and dry. This is very simple. Two things. One, as the president, I don't care who it is, they obviously have the right to appoint the Supreme Court justice, period. I don't care if it happens 2 days before the inauguration. Now, granted, it would never make it through hearings and all that other good stuff. But as far as timing goes, he can do it whenever he wants to. Is there a difference between now and 2016? There is. Do I buy into the whole, that's why Mitch McConnell's doing what he's doing? No, not really. The big difference was in 2016, the president and the Senate weren't of the same party, whereas now they are. And there's precedent to show that there's 1/3 of the justices have been appointed during the last term and yada, yada, yada. And to be quite honest with you, I wasn't a big fan of Garland just because I tend to lean right more. I didn't really argue the fact that Obama appointed him or nominated him. It's like, let it go to a vote. I don't really care. It's his right. It's his constitutional right. So for Pelosi to even come out and say that they were going to impeach Donald Trump because he appoints his Supreme Court nominee, which he actually has to do per the Constitution, I think that's all BS. What's funny is I got into it with a Democrat on Twitter, and hypocrisy knows no bounds. Now, don't get me wrong here. Republicans are just as hypocritical as Democrats. So I would tell you this, there is not one party that is any better than the other, period. I don't care what part of the spectrum you're on.
I disagree with that.
Anyway, you'll have your turn. As far as being hypocrites is my point. I obviously know or believe one party's better, but as far as the hypocrisy goes, it's the same on both sides. And they've been doing it for hundreds of years. Guess what that's called? Politics. And so I got into it back and forth, and the guy was trying to say, well, you don't see the hypocrisy here? I'm like, okay, I'll play your silly game. I see the hypocrisy here. So you don't see the hypocrisy in 2016 with the million clips that they play of all the Democrats that came out and said that we need a vote? Here's his answer. It's not hypocrisy to point out the hypocrisy of somebody else who set a standard. And so by doing that, I guess you're not a hypocrite. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. So it's not hypocritical of me to go back on my stance if the reason that I'm being a hypocrite is to prove your hypocrisy on a stance that you took. As long as I'm doing that, then I'm not a hypocrite. I don't even know what world that makes sense in. And that was off I think it was off a Slate article or something like that. And it's like, it was this guy just like, are you what? I don't even understand this. It makes no sense to me. So, and then he actually accused me, and I chuckled when you used the word earlier. He actually tried to explain to me cognitive dissonance. And then I finally ended up, and I haven't seen anything else since, that cognitive dissonance is when you believe that politicians are acting on behalf of their constituents and for the betterment of the American people. What's not cognitive dissonance is when you know that politicians are going to play politics and make decisions and take actions that are going to keep their party in power. That is not cognitive dissonance. So anyway, I thought this was going to be a longer segment for me. At the end of the day, I didn't really care with the Garland thing. Don't really want a liberal slanting Supreme Court. I would rather it be more conservative. So for me, it works out. But I really didn't have a whole lot of heartache in the Garland situation. Like right now, I don't know why they're having a heartache over this. And a couple of things that come out, they're talking about, the Democrats, all gloves are off the table, or whatever the hell his quote was, that if this happens. So I guess the Democrats were going to play nice if he didn't bring this vote up, if he didn't bring out his nominee when he does it this Saturday. I guess they were just going to play nice and be bipartisan at that point, because there's been so much bipartisanship up to this point. It's like, who are you kidding? One thing that the Democrats are good at, that the Republicans suck at, is they circle the wagons, man. because we even talked about it right up front. The minute that we saw it, that she passed away, what was the first three things? We were like, Romney, Murkowski, Collins, right off the bat. And believe it or not, Romney actually took there really wasn't a whole lot of, I mean, now we'll have to wait to the vote, right? The actual vote's got to happen. But as a senator or as a politician, left or right, if your own party already has to call you out before the issue's even been brought to light yet, that's a problem. You should probably change that R to a D or take it to an I. That's a problem in itself. So there's some other, second, third orders of effect with this, talking about making DC a state, talking about making Puerto Rico a state, talking about packing the courts. If you pack the courts, it'll be like an arms race. It'll never stop. Eventually, we'll just have 100-person or 101-person Supreme Court, because every time somebody has a majority, they're just going to continue to pack the court. And the same thing, adding DC and Puerto Rico, we'll just be looking for other islands to liberate and add to become a state. So I don't think, like you said last week, we're going to free the shit out of you, and then we're going to make you Americans, and then we're going to let you vote. So it's there are some second, third orders of effect of this. I'm not sure that it actually happens, but I vaguely remember, and I use this term every now and then, the internet was around back in, was it 2013? And I'll end on this before I kick it to Josh for his thoughts. Wasn't it Harry Reid with the nuclear option, taking the nomination from 60 votes down to just a simple majority? And wasn't it Mitch McConnell that said, you'll regret this, right? I forget what his exact term was, but it's like, maybe not today, but this is going to come back to bite you. And I tell you, it's going to be the same thing with the courts or anything else that the Democrats do with this. If they come back and really try to make a play on this, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. And everybody knows how government works. The only way that, or the reason that Harry Reid did it was because he was on his way out. He knew he was leaving 2013, right? He knows he's on his way out. So like, go to the nuclear option. He gave two shits about the party because he knew it was going to come back and bite them, but he knew he was going to retire and he wasn't going to have to be the one to put up with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I really don't have I thought I was going to have this whole, spiel on it. And maybe it was a spiel, 10-minute spiel here, but just not as in depth as what I thought it was going to be. Take the vote up or down, put the guy in office or put the lady in office. It's going to be a woman, put the woman in office. Just hold your seats because, I guess we'll have the sexual assault allegations that come out and God knows whatever else that comes out. I don't know. What do you think, Josh?
I thought Rogers, I thought it was genius. He keeps talking it down. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
What?
Your whole segment just now, man. You're like, oh, he's trying to play himself down. That's called a humble brag, right, Josh?
No, it's not a humble brag. I actually thought there was going to be like more critical thought analysis to this. So we could be like Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon. We got to burn the system down, man. Pledge of Allegiance, indivisible and all that. Right?
You're right. That was a humble brag. But I mean, granted, Roger is the smartest person on this podcast. And I mean, 50% of that reason is because he's Asian. So
well, and what I do is I edit out when you two talk, so it sounds like I'm the one with all the good ideas. When the actual podcast comes out and the video cast is great because all I do is I edit out you guys, so we just see Luke wiping sweat off his face with his rag, and then all we get from Josh is so I make it sound like I'm the smartest guy on this screen.
I love it. Right. So first off, RBG, the notorious RBG. Again, I go back as a human being, and as someone who sat on the Supreme Court. When I first saw that RBG passed, I immediately felt, well, that's terrible. Right. I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for her family because she had a family that loved her. Right. She had friends who loved her. Right. So as a human being, I felt compassion. I did not agree with a lot of RGB's decisions, especially Roe versus Wade and stuff. Right. And that's because I'm a conservative. And that's for another podcast. We're definitely not going to open Pandora's box here.
Oh, I'm ready for that one, man. I'm ready for that one.
Right. But again, right, she was a fighter. Nobody can deny her tenacity, her will. She was a fighter, right? She beat cancer multiple times. And she was a champion for women's rights. And so I will never, ever take that away from her, right? She was a fighter. And so I will give her that. She had a family who loved her. She was a fighter. God rest her soul, And like Luke said, as a Supreme Court justice, there is no higher honor as a judge than to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. So, fast forward to the whole, should you nominate a justice in an election year? So go back to I want to say it was 1980. Then President Jimmy Carter nominated to a lower court, not the Supreme Court, nominated a judge with the last name of Breyer to a lower court during an election year. Right? Now, a bunch of people voted in favor of that. And people were like, well, why are you bringing up a lower circuit court judge from 1980 and comparing them to the notorious RBG? Well, first of all, if you don't know the name Breyer and you're talking about RBG and the Supreme Court and you don't know the name Breyer, you're an idiot, because Breyer is now a Supreme Court justice, right? So there's a whole lot of threads here to unravel, right? I could pull a bunch of different threads here. And so one of those is, okay, well, should the president be allowed to nominate circuit court judges during an election year? Because where could they potentially get to, right, down the road? And so that's one thing that you need, if you're along that lines. Well, shouldn't nominate a justice during an election year. The most current one, the most famous one everybody wants to talk about is 2016 and Garland, right? Well, before we talk about Garland, let's rewind to 1992 and Joe Biden, then Senator Joe Biden, now former vice president, now presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. In 1992, Joe Biden directly appealed to then George H.W. Bush to not nominate anyone to the Supreme Court during an election year because the president and the Senate were not in agreement, meaning they were not represented by the same party, meaning there was a Democratic Senate and a Republican president in office, right? So why do I say that? To date, 25 nominations to the Supreme Court have happened during election years. 21 of those were confirmed. When you go back and you listen to almost every Supreme Court justice nomination hearing, what is one of the things that they say that they base their decisions on? Precedent.
Oh, I thought it was a dying wish.
No. I'm getting to that. So there's precedent, 25 nominations, 21 confirmations. There's precedent. There's precedent for nominations during an election year to be confirmed. Now, let's really get to the legality and the heart of the matter. I had somebody ask me the other day, and I quote, why does the Senate get to confirm justices and not the House? Okay. So I'm going to hold that. But everybody hold what you got on that, right? I bet if I go out and I ask 10 people right now, 10 average Americans right now, explain to me what defensive pass interference means in the NFL. I bet I could probably get 6 or 7 of them to tell me what defensive pass interference means. By the book, they say, well, the NFL defines pass interference as X, right? Okay, so when you ask me the question, why does the Senate get to confirm judges? Because, and I'm going to apologize to Luke's mom and dad real quick, and my mom and dad, because I'm going to curse right here. Because, motherfucker, and Betsy. Sorry, Betsy. Because, motherfucker, the rule book for the country, we like to call it the Constitution of the United States, defers that to the Senate. To the Senate. Not the House of Representatives.
He's right.
To the Senate.
He's
That's
right.
why the Senate gets to confirm judges. Because the Constitution says so. Article 2, Section 2. It's also known as, I don't know, the Appointments Clause. Maybe you should sit your ass down and read it. If you can explain to me the infield fly rule in baseball, but you can't explain to me who gets to confirm justices in the United States, you're wrong.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
So,
Lord.
We're going to call that. We're going to call that Josh 312. Josh 312. Like Austin 312. Right?
I think that's
Or
316.
316. God.
Good
Sorry,
Lord.
Mom. Oh, man.
Good
all those
Lord.
years in Sunday school.
Heathen. You heathen.
Josh 316, because the Constitution said so.
That's right. Luke, I got one question
this
for you
is
before you
historic.
start. I got one question for you, and then you can get into your piece.
I'm not done.
Yeah, you're done. The whole dying wish thing, and I'm trying to, and again, I'm with Josh on the family and all that other good stuff. If I'm on my deathbed, surrounded by family, there are a million other things that come to my mind other than President Trump nominating another Supreme Court justice. Did that even happen? Did that come on?
No.
Did that even happen?
No, look.
That didn't happen, right?
Come on. Yeah, this was a news story that was written probably, God, how many years ago? It was probably written a very long time ago. The news story about her dying wish was, look, man, Ruth Bader Ginsberg, all due respect, but listen, Justice, if you would have been more like forward looking, you probably should have retired, given up your seat under the Obama administration when he had 2 years left. You had a full career. That was the time to let it go. Otherwise, according to her own statements, open statements, she knew what could happen, but she decided to roll the dice. She said, I think there was a quote I said, I'm going to have to research this. People, I'll encourage you to research this on your own. I saw a quote somewhere today that said she wanted a female president. And she said this during the Obama administration. She wanted a female president to appoint the next Supreme Court justice. And that assumes that would have been Hillary Clinton. I'm sure she, like almost everyone else, thought, sure, Hillary Clinton's going to win. But Justice, God rest your soul, she's probably looking down, just laughing at this whole thing, like, I'm in a better place now, whatever, I don't care. I wasted so much time on this nonsense. I should have just retired under Obama, whatever. But yes, Roger, I agree. That was not, come on her deathbed, there are more important things than that, I would hope. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't been on my deathbed yet. Been close a few times. Not yet. So I remember a story way back in the day. I was at Enoch. You guys remember Enoch? It's a school you got to go to be a class. Roger knows that school. Josh does too. There was a kid there, and this was long before I evolved into the Joe Atlas massive brain that I have today, kicking sand in the faces of liberals who don't think, logically. I was still forming, my political stances and my stances in life, really. And there was one guy, we were talking about George W. Bush. We were sitting out there in the smoking hallway. I was not smoking. I was having a big fat dip, but everyone else was smoking. And we were talking about George W. Bush. Some people hated him. Some people loved him. And his legacy is not going to be this. It's not going to be that. His legacy in the history books 100 years from now is going to be his Supreme Court justices. And I remember that triggered something in my head. And I was like, wait, this kid's pretty smart. I admire this guy. What's he really mean? And so I started really digging into it. This is years ago, man, a long time ago. I was like, man, the Supreme Court justices really are a president's legacy. It's their true legacy that can last long before they're dead. It can. And this is where I kind of fall on the whole Trump thing. But first, I'm going to give Roger some credit. And you guys can look back at my Facebook posts. You guys who know who I am on Facebook, you can look back where I kind of turned the corner, where I became kind of a Trump supporter before the election. I was a doubter, and Roger was the first of us who was like, nope, this is the guy. This is the guy. I remember that. And I was like, Roger, I don't know. But then as it came closer and closer to the election, he got the nomination. I started saying to people who were never Trumpers and all this stuff, people, it is not about, forget everything you know about Trump, forget everything you know about Hillary Clinton. If you're a conservative, this is about the Supreme Court, period. Look back at my Facebook posts. I was lecturing people on this. And it absolutely is true. And the time is now. If you have the slightest bit of doubt as whether Trump is going to win or not, you should be supporting this decision to go forward, because according to Josh 3:16, it's about the Constitution. The president has the right to do this. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter if you're upset about it. If this president can get one more good, in my opinion, one more good appointee to the Supreme Court, it was all worth it. This last 4 years was absolutely worth it. Just from that alone, we're not talking about foreign policy. We're not talking about anything else. It's about the Supreme Court. Josh wants to say something real bad.
I am chomping through the bit to say something. So you're absolutely right. Roger was the first of our group to hop on the Trump train. Right. At first, I'm gonna tell you right now, I was a Ted Cruz guy. I was a Ted Cruz guy at the beginning, and everything. And then eventually it's like, bro, like Eddie Munster is not cutting it. He's not going to be the guy. And I still love Ted Cruz. Right. I still respect, I still admire Ted Cruz. But, at the end of the day, man, it was like, you got to see, it was like, at the end of the day, Ted Cruz, he's an establishment guy. Right. And in this whole, real quick, in this whole RGB thing, everybody's like, oh, people are idolizing Mitch McConnell. I'm going to tell you right now, I despise Mitch McConnell. I loathe Mitch McConnell. I hate career politicians. I do. I don't care if they have an R or D, after their name. I hate career politicians. And so finally, once they were like, oh shit, like Trump won the primaries, like Trump's the candidate. I was like, all right, all on board the Trump train, because Hillary Clinton is truly the devil. And so I hopped aboard the Trump train, and my sole thing for Trump was, one, he's not an establishment guy. Two, the guy knows the economy. And I would like to, I don't want to have to work until I'm 85 to live, right? Trump knows the economy. Hopefully I can retire a little earlier with, him running the show for at least a little while. And three, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, because that is something that is going to last for the next 2, 3, potentially 4 decades. And people are like, oh my God, they're going to take away women's rights. They're going to take away this, that, and the other. Hey man, guess what? I think there's a couple of decisions already that have been made that Trump's 2 appointees to the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, have disagreed with, have gone against him. So for everybody out there who's like, oh my God, they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, they're going to go against, they're going to take away LGBTQ, all the alphabet, rights. You're wrong, because that's not what history has showed. You go back and look at, Gorsuch's and Kavanaugh's rulings and sightings, they haven't always gone with the person who appointed them. And I don't think any judge has. So people need to just take a deep breath, calm down a little bit. But I go back to the Constitution, right? Anton Scalia was probably the greatest Supreme Court justice ever to sit on the bench. Why? Because he was a constitutional textualist. And you go back, you can trace textualism all the way back to Aristotle, right? And so when people are like, why does the Senate get to pick justice? Because that's what the Constitution says. People who want to, like, well, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. I don't effing care that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Why? Because we do not have a democracy. We are not a democratic government. We are a constitutional republic. And if you go back, the Electoral College is written into the Constitution. If you have not read the Constitution, and I would even say, and I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Tyler. I don't want to say his last name because I don't want people hating on him. I don't want people protesting in front of his house, like they're doing to Lindsey Graham right now. But Tyler also was like, hey, guess what? People need to read the Federalist Papers too. Go back and read the Constitution. It's not that long. Read the Declaration of Independence, read the Constitution. Luke pointed it out, I think in last episode, 2 episodes ago. The Constitution is not filled with legalese. It's not filled with all these complicated terms. It was written in a manner so even the cabbage farmer on Long Island, who was a member of the Culper spy ring, who helped win the Revolutionary War, could understand it. Could either A, read it, understand it, or B, have it read to them and understand it. That was the level they wrote it to. So if you know your shapes and colors, you can understand the Constitution. And if you haven't read it and you're an American citizen, I'm going to tell you right now, you're fucking wrong. You're wrong. We don't teach it. We don't make it a requirement, and we should. We should damn sure make it a requirement to be an elected official. Looking at you, AOC, the 3 branches of government are not the House, the Senate, and the White House. Read the Constitution. That's the document that we should all live by. Scalia said it. He said it best. The Constitution says what it says, and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. No, Bernie, healthcare is not a right. I don't see it in the Constitution. Housing's not a right, AOC. It's not the Constitution. The Constitution says what it says, and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. Get your shit together, people.
So, okay.
And help us out, or you're going to put me in an early grave.
Okay,
I love you all.
I'm going to help Josh out a little bit here. So, sorry. So last Christmas, my daughter was here, and Josh, man, classic. Oh. So last Christmas, my daughter was here, and as some of you may know, she's going to go to the Army. She's going to be an officer. And I was asking her, we were talking about the Constitution. We were talking about it quite a bit because, like, you swear an oath to is pretty important. So I gave her my last copy of the Constitution. I keep on me at all times in my satchel. It's not a man purse. It's a satchel. I keep my whip in there, and everything else Indiana Jones has. It's a satchel. Anyway. So I gave her my last copy. So I was like, well, I got to get some more of these. So I go on Amazon. I'm helping you guys out who want to stay on Josh's good graces and adhere to the Holy Scripture that is Josh 3:16. I went on Amazon and looked up Pocket Constitution. I got a copy of the Constitution, a little pocket size thing for, I think I got like 12 of them for like $6. It's like, man, that's great. So I ordered 12 of them. I give them out to people. I've given them to some locals who work here. They've actually read it and had some good conversations with me specifically about the Second Amendment. They always want to know about the Second Amendment. They don't get it. Yeah. So go out, just order some, hand them out to people, man. I mean, it really is a good document. It's actually kind of like Josh said, it's really easy reading. It's not legalese. It's just know where you came from, man. I mean, it's good stuff. I love it. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I swore an oath to it. So, God, man, that was a good one. So I insisted we wanted to leave it at those two topics, or Josh and Roger want to leave it at those two topics. I insisted that we talk about the notorious Hunter Biden. Where's Hunter? I got so much to say about this, but I'm going to go to Roger first. Hunter Biden, some pretty damning news came out about him. Damning is a legit word, Betsy, mom, Josh's mom. Damning is okay. I can say that. We've tried to throttle the cussing, so we've really tried for y'all. But Hunter, man, oh man, not good. Not good. This is the vice president's son. This is a guy who's running for president.
So real quick on the notorious RBG that started in 2013 by Shauna Nijnik. She was a law student and started a Tumblr by that name to honor Ginsburg memorial dissent and the voting rights case Shelby County versus Holder, which basically said if you were from, now I'm summarizing, you're basically from a racist part of the country that has a historical track record of being a racist, then before you make any changes to the local election rules or policies, they had to be signed off on by the Department of Justice. So that's where she got her notorious RBG. Hunter Biden. Wow, man, you can't make this shit up. We have this term that we used throughout our community back in the day that you just can't get off the X. Like, you cannot make this stuff up. And here's what's amazing to me, and I'll give you a quick rundown. I'll throw it right back to you, Luke, to get your thoughts on it. What's amazing to me is, why has the right, the conservatives, why aren't they all over this? Because the Dems are already out there and they're already downplaying it. And they really haven't been challenged on a lot of this stuff. The one time Biden was asked about it, and for you folks that are out there on Twitter or whatever, you Google it, when Biden was asked about his son, I mean, he cooked the fuck off. Straight angry. It is a touchy subject, and you know that. The left has already come out and played it down as a nothing burger, but they really don't even have to, because the right's not taking control of it. This is where I thought I was going to get my mass Twitter following, because as soon as that dropped, I was like one of the first people in the world to like drop the boom, 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 right? I was like, holy shit, this is huge. Capital huge. Capital H-U-G, huge. Crickets. I'm like, surely this is going to take off. Through our pundits that we watch, even our conservative sides, right? So as the days go on, or 2 days, I guess, it's crickets. So let me give you a quick rundown. And I can't figure out why. So I guess that's my first question I posed to you, Luke. But everybody knows the deal. Hunter Biden, Burisma. And of course, the way the Dems portrayed all is, this absolutely had no impact on any of Biden's decisions, Obama's decisions, government policies, or anything. They're saying zero. Not a smidgen of corruption, right? That was the Obama quote. Not a smidgen of corruption in my presidency, administration, or whatever. So got some bullet points here. 2015, former acting deputy chief of mission at U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, George Kent, raised concerns to officials in Vice President Joe Biden's office about the perception of a conflict of interest respective to Hunter Biden. Because remember, Joe said that, I knew he was doing something. Nobody ever brought this up to me. No, actually, it was brought up to you, specifically you, in your office. It went unaddressed, and in 2016, he emphasized it in an email to his colleagues. So after Joe blew him off, he wrote an email and was like, hey, man, there's a problem here. Furthermore, the presence of Hunter Biden on the Burisma board was very awkward for all U.S. officials pushing an anti-corruption agenda in Ukraine, because you're trying to push that agenda. And what happened? Your boys on the board, like, corrupt. So anyway, so that happens there. October 2015, senior State Department official Amos Hochstein raised concerns again with Vice President Biden, as well as with Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's position on Burisma's board. Talked about how it enabled Russia's disinformation efforts and risked undermining U.S. policy in Ukraine. So, and I only pull those two snippets because you have several iterations where people are like, no, we actually told the administration, not just Obama, But we also told Biden and several other members of the administration. So they go on and talk about how awkward it is and it's hard to push that anti-corruption agenda. Former Assistant Secretary of State, European Eurasian Affairs, Victoria Nuland testified that confronting oligarchs would send an anti-corruption message in Ukraine. Kent told the committee that this Zlotowski was an oligarch. However, in December 2015, instead of following U.S. objectives and confronting them, Vice President Biden's staff advised him to avoid commenting on it and recommend he say, "I'm not going to get into naming names or accusing individuals," which I think I actually remember that. So to sit there and just say that it had no influence on policy or whatever, I think you can pretty much throw it out the door. Again, just highlights here. Hunter Biden was now here's what's interesting, because now we're talking about tax-paying dollars, right? Hunter Biden was a U.S. Secret Service protectee from 29 January 2009 to July 8, 2014. A day before his last trip as a protectee, Time published an article describing Burisma's ramped-up lobbying efforts to U.S. officials and Hunter's involvement in Burisma's board. Before ending his protective detail, Hunter Biden received Secret Service protection on trips to multiple foreign locations, including Moscow, Beijing, Doha, Paris, Seoul, Manila, Tokyo, Mexico City, Milan, Florence, Shanghai, Geneva, London, Dublin, Munich, Berlin, Bogota, Abu Dhabi, Nairobi, Hong Kong, Taipei, Buenos Aires, Copenhagen, Johannesburg, Brussels, Madrid, Mumbai, and Lake Como. Dude, you cannot make this stuff up, right? You can't make it up. In addition to over the $4 million paid by Burisma for Hunter Biden and Archer, his partner's board membership, Hunter Biden, his family, and Archer received millions of dollars for foreign nationals with questionable backgrounds. And here's where we get to the new one. Hunter Biden received a $3.5 million wire transfer from Elena Baturina. Probably, she doesn't listen, so it'd be whatever the hell I pronounce it. The wife of the former mayor of Moscow. Hunter Biden opened a bank account with Gongwin Dong to fund a 100,000 global spending spree with James Biden and Sarah Biden. Hunter Biden had business associates with, I'm going to butcher all this stuff. Well, we only have like one Taiwanese and one Chinese listener anyway. Yi Jingmin, Gongwin Dong, and other Chinese nationals linked to the communist government and the People's Liberation Army. Those associations resulted in $1 million in cash flow, and Hunter Biden paid non-resident women who were nationals of Russia or other Eastern European countries who appear to be linked to an Eastern European prostitution or human trafficking ring. So you can't make it up. Those are that's boilerplates. Those are the bullets there. I'll put this the way I can frame it for myself. I remember back in the day, because I was a security investigator for a little while, and I remember back in the day that, hey, if you had immediate family members that had this kind of foreign nexus, that was a problem with your security clearance. I'm pretty sure it's that way for all federal government employees, or it was, and I think it still is. So that's kind of my piece on it. I'm just going to provide the highlights. So, Luke, take it away, man. It's a lot to unpack.
That you said it all. You went down the list there, and I encourage you, if you kind of put us on autopilot there while you're running, Ryan. All these people, they work out while they're listening to us. I can't figure that out. I encourage you to rewind and listen to the items that Roger lined out right there, because they are pretty significant. And what I'll say is one thing I'm very guilty of in life in general is something called projection. I project myself onto everyone else. And I'm like, well, I can see this. How come everyone else can't? I think of that last bullet about basically, Roger said the legalese, and basically the last bullet is this guy got a ton of hookers from Russia and Eastern Europe, which had ties to basically human trafficking. Not even basically, it's human trafficking. Hashtag me too, man. That's all I'm going to say. It's hashtag me too. I mean, where did that go? I mean, that should be number one. I mean, there was this whole bullshit report about, there was this whole BS report about Trump peeing on hookers in Moscow that was totally debunked. Christopher Steele is all nonsense. This is actually a real document, people. This is not some news source, Fox News, MSNBC, whatever. This is the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, U.S. Committee on Finance Majority Staff Report. Now, keep in mind, I mean, it's not necessary. I mean, there are Democrats and Republicans on this committee. It's chaired by a Republican. But this is actually a Senate committee that did a whole investigation, just like the Mueller report, just like that one, who found all these things. And what they're looking for is a conflict of interest here. And if you go through all those points that Roger outlined, and there's more to it in this report, I encourage you, go online. I'm going to say it again. It's the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs. Type that into Google and type in Hunter Biden. You will get the actual report released by the U.S. government on what their findings were with footnotes and everything. Now, keep in mind, when all this happened was when Joe Biden was vice president. As there's an anti-corruption investigation going on, basically against Burisma and holdings like that within Ukraine, of which Hunter Biden is a board member getting paid inordinate amounts of money. And Joe Biden got on TV and bragged about how he got the prosecutor who was investigating those corruption dealings with all these Burisma holdings and all these other. Joe Biden bragged about getting him fired. I'll just make a call to Obama and get him fired. And guess what? He was fired. That guy was investigating. Look at the report. That guy was investigating Hunter Biden and all his ilk. There were other people involved, other Americans involved. It's like projection. If I don't understand how people are completely outraged by this. And Joe Biden, this is what really outrages me more than anything else. Hey, Joe Biden, quit being an idiot. Don't send I'm backing away from the mic because I know I'm getting loud. Stop sending your son to a place where we're actually actively, the U.S. government is helping investigate corruption. Send your son to somewhere in Southeast Asia that no one's ever heard of to make his millions of dollars. Stop, you idiot. It's like, hey, man, if you're going to be a corrupt politician, at least be smart. Okay? Because this stuff is going to come back to haunt you. This little thing called the internet, and the internet remembers. I mean, my God, I get really worked up about this because, we talk about the hypocrisy. It's like, man, all these people are under, you open yourself up to public scrutiny by being a public servant or a Hollywood star or a music star. You get what you deserve. Okay. And right now, not only is Hunter Biden getting what he deserves because he's profiting off that, but Joe Biden is too. And the fact that someone could vote for him and think that this isn't going to happen again is just out of their freaking mind, man. I mean, human trafficking, me too. I mean, hashtag me too. I mean, where are all these people? It's human trafficking, man. It's prostitution. I mean, forcing women, it's rape. Okay. That's what it is. It's rape against their will. Hunter Biden is guilty of it. Where are all these people? Man, I'm telling you, we live in a freaking clown world. Josh, man, I'm queuing off you and I'm getting all worked up. I don't think I said too many cuss words, but I encourage the audience. I'm going to pass it to Josh.
Hey, you know who else is getting what they deserve? His baby's mama now.
Oh my God. So that's another thing. It's like you put Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and someday, Barron Trump, that poor kid. You put them under this type of microscope, it's just going to be nonstop wall-to-wall headlines. Now, one more thing before I pass it to Josh. Roger, I don't know why both sides are staying so silent about this. It's like, man, it's like this giant, it's all this pressure building up, and you think it's going to explode. And like you said, Joe Biden just went nuts in that clip the other day when someone challenged him on his son. I think Roger's right. We're running low on time right here, but I think Roger's right. I think there's going to be debates. I don't know if they're going to be face-to-face, but that's the first thing I would tell if I was the advisor. I'd be like, go after the son and watch him blow the F up.
Absolutely.
and have the entire American public unhinged and then tweet out this report and say, hey, man, I'm just telling the truth. I don't know. I feel all this pressure building, all this stuff. And it's just like, when is it going to release? Or is it at all? I don't know. I hope it does. Josh, I'm done on this one. I could talk for a long time, but you go ahead.
No, I got you, brother. So, there's a lot of threads to unpack there, right? There's so much to unpack there, but you're absolutely right. Go after his son, because you go back and look at, there's probably about 3 different instances where people have asked Joe Biden about his son, right? And Joe Biden has come unglued, like professionally unglued, right? So Trump Trump Jr., Eric, baby, I know you're not listening to Culper's Canteen Cup. You should be, because we got our shit together, right? So you should be listening to us. So go after Hunter. Was that for 3 years, right? From 29, even today, right? So you have almost 4 years now. The country has been ripped apart by this Russian collusion narrative, right? Don Jr. met, people met with this Russian, person in Trump Towers in New York, right? We have been just, pounded with this Russian collusion narrative. Well, I tell you what, after this bipartisan, because there were Democrats sitting on that committee, as Luke pointed out, after this bipartisan report came out, Carter Page has received $0 from Russia. Hunter Biden received $3.5 million from the wife of the mayor of Moscow, who is a close associate of Vladimir Putin. So I'll tell you what. So it's crazy when you go back and you look at all these investigations, haven't revealed any Russian collusion on the part of the Trump campaign, but have revealed all the Russian connections to the Democrat Party. I don't know. Again, I don't want to. I'm not going to convict anybody in a court of public opinion, but they opened the counterintelligence investigation on the wrong son. That's all. That's what I'll say about that. Right. So the other part, and I get fired up. I get excited. Right, because I go back to the Constitution, because that is the document. That is the document of our nation, right? The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, that is the document of our nation. And so I get excited about it. I get passionate about it. When you go back, you look at Hunter Biden and you talk about not having the nation's best interest at heart. And I'll be the first one to admit I despise, for the most part, both political parties. There's hypocrisy. There's, people are like, oh, well, trust in this. Everybody's seen the movie Lincoln, right? You guys have seen the movie Lincoln?
Yep.
So you remember when Thaddeus Stevens, when he's talking to the radicals, and he's like, trust? Right? Trust, I'm sorry. I thought your chosen profession was politics, right? So that's what, when people are like, I can't believe the hypocrisy of the insert your adversarial party here. I'm like, well, of course there's hypocrisy on both sides. It's called politics. But I tell you, when it comes down to it, when it comes down to, the Supreme Court nomination, when it comes down to whatever, you, as in you, and I'm using personal pronouns here, but when you, the Democratic Party, when you, Chuck Schumer, when you, Nancy Pelosi, you lost any right to argue about decency, about honor for the last 4 years, when you push this Russian collusion narrative, undermining a duly elected president, when you treated at the Senate, when you treated Kavanaugh, when you treated Brett Kavanaugh the way you did, when you drug his good name through the mud the way you did, you lost your argument about honor and dignity and trust, whatever. Go kick rocks, go pound sand, go. I'm not going to say a lot of bad words here. I want to say a lot of bad words. God knows I want to say a lot of bad words. But out of respect to our parents, I'm not going to say a lot of bad words. So when it comes to Hunter Biden, and I'm going to add this, because as the father of 3 daughters, for Hunter Biden to go out there and patronize Eastern European women, prostitutes, right? You may not have handcuffed them, shackled them, and put them on a plane or put them in a Connex or put them in the trunk of a car, but you enabled that. You enabled that by you patronizing that. You've contributed to that process. If you did, Hunter, and again, I'm not going to convict him in a court of public opinion before he's convicted in a public, but the evidence is pointing that way. Fuck you, Hunter Biden. Anybody who participates in that, who enables that, whether you pull the trigger metaphorically or not, fuck you. I hope you die. I hope you burn in hell for all eternity. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if that was one of my daughters, I would murder you in the middle of the street at high noon. And you know what? I would use my pistol to, and the only thing I would feel is the recoil of my weapon.
Hey, folks.
I would wake up every day in prison.
This is satire.
Smiling. I would wake up every day in prison with a smile on my face and the calm feeling in my heart, knowing that you're in hell burning for all eternity. The people involved in human trafficking, fuck you. I hope you die, and I hope you burn in hell for eternity. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close it out. I'm not going to kick it over to anybody. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. So think about where you're at. Is this where you want to be when baby Jesus comes back? Is this where you want to be when baby Jesus comes back? Closing it out. Thank you to Carlton Zeus, who's probably not going to let us use his music anymore after this one. Thanks to our listeners out there. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. I'm not going to drink anymore during our podcast because we're probably losing listeners as it is. All 7 of you, we're probably going to go down to like 4. So, all right. Hey, like Luke said, the guy said, Roger said at the very beginning, go over to YouTube, smash that subscribe button. Smash it like CT Fletcher. Give CT Fletcher a shout out. Check us out on our social media. Get involved. Read the Constitution. Read the Federalist Papers. Please, for the love of God and everything that is holy on this earth, read your founding documents. All right? Not asking you to be a Republican, not asking you to be a Democrat. Just read your founding documents. Be an American. Be the American that the Hong Kong protesters thought you were. And with that, welcome to our freemium content.
Well, since Josh can't shut the fuck up, your freemium content is going to be about 1.5 minutes long. So it's all good though. And you're on mute. Yeah, God damn it.
Trump, Lake Trump. It is a new lake northwest of Pristina, kind of on the border there of Serbia and Kosovo. They couldn't agree on the name, like Jaroslav and Ferazai. So the Serbians and the Kosovars agreed to call it Lake Trump. Winning.
Awesome. Winning.
Freaking winning, dude.
Well, for you YouTube watchers out there, as always, we appreciate you watching us. Remember, this shit is free. So before you start complaining about, well, my premium content at the end was only 1.5 minutes, you didn't pay anything for it. So you got what you paid for. So I don't know, maybe next time we'll extend it, or I don't know, maybe break it up and do another.
You know what? You freemium content users, you got a lesson.
Good Lord. So thanks for watching.
Josh 316.
Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there and keep your canteen cups tightly secured.